Good morning, good day to the people. How are you? So this video, I'm going to be helping anyone out there who is thinking about moving, looking about relocating. They just want to get out of the environment that which they live and better themselves. So I will give you all the experience and tips that I learned through my travels, and they should help you out in deciphering how to go about planning to actually getting out to where you're going. So it's going to be a little bit of a longer video. Sit back, relax, and let's have some fun. So, backstory. I have traveled a lot, more than the average person, and moved a lot. I have gone from the northeast of the United States down to Florida, up to Tennessee, back to Colorado, to Utah, from Florida to Tennessee again, from northeast to South Colorado, and then South Dakota, then South Dakota, zigzags, right? Big trips, big places. I've moved to places I've never been before. I've done it all, right? And I've made mistakes along the way. So the biggest thing is when you're looking to relocate and move somewhere, make sure you do a lot of research. And I mean, understand the climate, understand the culture, understand the dynamics of if it's a city, if it's rural, if you're going to a suburb area, where would you work? Really plan all these things out and understand all the aspects of an area before you move there. And I say this because so many times I've come across people who they go on vacation somewhere. I've heard this a lot from people from Colorado and people from Florida. So I've heard it from both parties and probably other states as well, where they go on vacation, they only spend maybe 2 weeks somewhere, and they're just like, this is perfect, this is great, I'm gonna move here. And they move to this place. For this example, I'm gonna use Florida, right? A lot of people go vacation in Florida, and they just love it. Oh, the beach vibe, I could be here every day. But they don't understand that they're on vacation. See, they never experienced living there as a working human, like going to work, commuting, dealing with the different types of temperature. So a lot of times when it came to Florida, what I would see is people would move there because they went on a vacation, or they were on social media and everybody's jumping the bandwagon and jumping to the next best state. And they realize that it's a lot of party culture, it's a lot of drinking all the time. After you go to the beach and do all the stuff, after a certain point you kind of get bored, because once summer comes around and becomes nuclear intense heat, you can't really go outside. So the alternative that a lot of people do, they drink, right? And they don't understand the climate, they don't understand the work environment and how it might, most places in Florida are seasonal, and all these things. They didn't do their homework. They just went off of a vibe from a vacation, and boom, they went there. Another example is Colorado. I knew some people that were born and raised natives, and they would see these people time in and time out go there for vacation, only go in the spring and summer, the best times to get outdoors, and they fall in love with it. And then when they move out there, they experience wintertime, and they're like, holy shit, I didn't sign up for this. Well, you didn't do your homework, right? You went there solely on vacation, and you didn't really do the research that you should do when you move somewhere. So definitely, if you have an area or a state that you are prospecting, do your homework, right? Do research, but also put some boots on the ground, right? try not to bum rush to get there. Don't have FOMO where fear of missing out takes over and you have to get there next month, right? Take some time, take some trips, multiple trips, or a few longer trips, like a 3-week trip if you can swing it. And don't just do the fun vacation stuff. Keep that for the weekends. During the week, go around the areas that you think you would be moving to, where you can get an apartment, rent a house, buy a house. Really scope it out, because that's going to be your everyday environment once you move there. Like, those are the things you're going to have to deal with. So you have to understand, like, you go there, well, oh, I didn't expect all this traffic. Well, yeah, because you did the fun stuff all the time while you were there and not actually see what the rhythm of the area is like. So definitely do your homework, talk to locals, talk to people, see things, walk around, drive around all times of the day, and get those hours in within the area. And a lot of times, from my experience and from other people, you might have done all the research on a city, on an area, and then once you get out there, it's not what you thought. Or what a lot of the times I have noticed, and I experienced this firsthand in South Dakota, the city, people posting about it, everything looks perfect on paper, right? Social media only shows you the highlights of an area, but then you get there and you see the things that they hide: homelessness, drug problems, things like that. So there will be moments where, you do all the research and logically on the books, on paper, it looks perfect. But once you get out there, then you're like, oh, shit, okay, maybe not. But don't fret. Just because a city within a state wasn't how you thought it would be, take that trip to venture out to other areas. Maybe there's areas outside of the city you were looking at that are more your vibe, or another part of the state. So definitely do that. And when you do travel to these areas or the states or city or whatever, try to go in the off seasons, because a lot of the times when you go somewhere in season, it's busy, businesses are doing well, people are happy, vacation people are there. You don't really get to see the locals or the normal day-to-day stuff, because it's blindsided by all this flashy fun stuff. So that's pretty much with that aspect of it. The big one that a lot of people have issues with is work, right? I know what it's like. It's a vicious cycle to try to move somewhere, and you try to apply for jobs, and the jobs say, well, once you move here, we'll do the interview, or we'll do an interview, once you come out here, or once you get a residence here, you could put an application in if your address isn't local. Not, most of the time they're going to disregard you, because they're going to take someone local that knows the area, and it could be a vicious cycle. Then the other issue is, okay, you go there and you want to rent something, renting is different than buying, of course, but I always suggest, you get your feet wet renting a house or an apartment before just buying a place and then jumping ship, going to a new place, and then you got a mortgage. And if it's not what you thought it would be, and I've seen this firsthand in Florida, you're there because you got a mortgage. And if you bought that house at the peak of the market and now you're, short on the house and it lost some value, well, you're in a bad situation, right? So to get back to the point, when you try to rent these places, then they want you to show that you work there or have a job. So it's this weird, vicious kind of circle, And from my experience, I'll tell you a little backstory. Before I moved to South Dakota, I actually lived in an Airbnb for 2 weeks. It was expensive, right? And 9 times out of 10, a lot of people don't succeed doing that because they go out there, they do the fun stuff, they don't really put their nose to the grindstone and apply to jobs, going in person, giving applications, trying to find a place to rent, and they get distracted, and guess what? Time's up, they're running out of money, and they can't move there. So I lived in an Airbnb for 2 weeks, found an apartment, applied for it, got in, got a job lined up, and everything, I'm going to say with quotations, went smoothly, but I will admit it wasn't a cakewalk. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of early mornings, staring at my iPad, trying to find a place, looking constantly, because at that time the market, it was hard to find something to rent because everybody and their grandmom was trying to go there, right? So yeah, I had to put in the time, call places, apply to places, go in person, go to job applications. So when you go to a new place, if you can rent something short term, or even rent a house, like I know in Florida that's a big thing where you could rent a house for a month, get the vibe of the area, try to apply to jobs, try to find a place to move into, and leapfrog that way. Other states, I don't know if it's as common as down there, but that is kind of one course of action where if you did your research, you visited the place before, and you're like, yeah, I want to try to live here, do a short-term rental, be there in person, and just pump out job interviews, pump out looking at rental properties or wherever you plan to live, and don't play around, right? Then you'll be good, right? If you put the work in. So that's, that dynamic to kind of get around that loophole of no job, can't get a job because you don't live there, and you can't move there because you don't have a job cycle. The other, sorry about the sun. I think that's better. The other thing to be aware of is, like, if you want to get around that and you like the area and you're like, I've been there, I just know it's a good fit, you can find an apartment if you got a good amount of money set aside. You could pay for your security deposit, pay for your first month rent, whatever requirements they usually have. And if you have good credit, you can find a place pretty easy. I know that's not for everybody because I know some of you guys out there, you might have gotten in a bind or something and things got tough. Maybe your credit hurt a little bit. So I get it, But like an option number 2, if you got good credit, you know the area, it's not impossible to apply for an apartment and move down there and then get a job. But to get that done, like I said, you got to have the money set aside and you got to have your credit. And also have a buffer saved. So not just have like your money set aside for, your security deposit and all that, because you don't want to just move there and have no money and be hungry eating beans. Been there. What you want to do is also have like a savings set aside to at least cover your expenses for, like, I would say safely, if you want to be comfortable, 2 months, minimal a month. But if you got that month saving, minimal kind of, little cash fund, once you get there, you better hustle and get a job locked in to make sure you're able to cover your bills and cover your rent and find a job that pays enough. So the next thing would be kind of, tailing off of the job aspect. Make sure that the job you find does pay what your kind of cost of living is within that area. So for example, a lot of people, they want to go to Florida and they're like, yeah, Florida, I do this kind of work. Say if you live in the Northeast or you live out west and you're used to a certain pay grade for the job you're currently doing. Say you're I don't know, prep cook, right? And in the Northeast you get paid well, and out west you get paid well. But then they didn't do the research, and they go down to Florida and realize the pay is hugely different, right? Or they go to Tennessee and the pay is hugely different. So definitely do your homework and know what the pay is for the job that you currently have, that you're gonna, if you're gonna leapfrog into the same industry, or if you're gonna shift industries, because some areas, you know, the pay is different. You might see a place and be like, oh wow, the cost of living's cheap, rent's cheap, oh yeah, it's cheap to live out there, but then the pay isn't, you know, it's matching why the cost of living's cheap, right? Now, if you work from home, you own your own business, you have one of those jobs where you could just be anywhere and the companies don't care where you live, well, you know, you don't have to listen to this step, because whatever you're making, if it covers the cost of living, well, just shit. You're lucky. Not everybody else is lucky like that. So definitely do your homework career-wise and cost of living and how much you were going to get paid. Don't overlook taxes, because you might be thinking, oh man, minimum wage is great, it's this high amount, but then if you get taxed out the butthole, like, it ain't going to benefit you, right? So definitely do your homework and be the judge of what you feel comfortable with. You know, a lot of people will spout on the internet or talk in your ear and say all this stuff and make you try to make decisions, but do your own homework and see what you are comfortable with dealing with having be your daily life. So that's kind of those two aspects. They're pretty big, and I think if you chunk out those, it will make a huge difference when you move. For the moving aspect itself, U-Haul is always beneficial. I used U-Haul quite a bit. It saved me. They have those shipping containers where I think it's called like Pack Box. U-Haul has their own version of it too, where you can just put all your stuff in there, trucker picks it up, then they drop it off to the next location, and there you go. That's expensive, but if you can afford it and swing it, you know, go for it. But definitely, the biggest tip of advice I got from one of my uncles, he lived in all kinds of places. If you don't know where you want to live, right, ask yourself, what is it that you enjoy to do for your hobbies, or you enjoy to do on the weekends, and find a place that helps you curate a life around that. So, for an example, if you really enjoy to hike and be outdoors, then find like a place where there's a lot of trails and where you can hike all the time and it's easy access to trails. Because on the weekends, you like to go to, you know, hike. Cool. If you like to club and go to really nice clubs, lounges, party, then find a place that has that scene that's near where you live, that's accessible, where on the weekends you're off work, you get to do the things you enjoy. Because if you're going to go through all this work, effort, and stress to move, you might as well pick a place that you can enjoy and that you can do stuff that you like. So, though, that's another one. Another tip would be, don't let FOMO and like everybody rush into one place make you feel stressed and make rash decisions, because it can cause a big financial setback, right? Moving is a huge deal. And if you move somewhere, and unfortunately I had this happen to me where I moved somewhere, the landlord was a dick. It was this whole mess. We were trying to find another place to rent, and I was just like, yeah, this ain't worth it, and went somewhere else to get back on my feet and save up some money again. That was a financial setback. Did I expect it? No. Could I have planned better? Yes. But sometimes, I mean, that's the risk. There is risk to moving. I'm not going to say it's all sunshine and rainbows. There's definitely a curve to it. But be aware of the financial risk and the setbacks, and be honest with yourself, you know? If you're going to do it, you better have 110% in, because if you just got your toes tipped in and you just jump the gun because everybody else is moving somewhere and they're like, oh, it's so great, look at me on social media, we're having a blast, and then you jump the gun because you feel like you're missing out on the fun and it sets you back financially, well, you know, then you get stuck. You can get stuck in a place you don't want to be, which I've seen, or you can set yourself back, and then if you want to move back to where you used to live or somewhere else or a different place, or it didn't turn out the way you thought it would, it's going to take you longer because, you know, your finances got a little depleted. So be aware of that. And I mean, the FOMO ties into emotions, definitely, because a lot of people make rash decisions when their emotions are very high or very low. So try to make decisions when it comes to moving within that neutral point, because the high could be like when you're on vacation or you see your friends having fun and you have FOMO and you're like, I gotta get down there. And the low could be like when you're going through the grind of just moving to a place and you're like, oh, this sucks, this is terrible, I don't have friends, and then you jump the gun and move away because you didn't give it a chance. So be aware of your emotions and try to make decisions on that neutral point. Like the old saying, sleep on it, take some time, really let it set in of what decision you're about to make. And the final point to wrap this big old ball up, friends, right? When you move somewhere, you can't expect to make friends right off the bat within the first 2 months, unless, you know, you're going out and you're socializing, already know people or what have you. It takes time to build real solid relationships and real solid friendships. So don't let that be a thing that withholds you from staying somewhere that you moved to longer. From my experience, it always seems like around that 1 year mark is like where just for some reason, you know, the seas part, and then all the locals are starting to recognize you, people starting to remember you. You get that kind of notoriety, you start making more friends, people reach out to you. That always seems to happen within that 1 year mark because it takes time. You know, you're going to work, you're going to the gym, you just moved there, you're trying to set up your schedule, set up your house, apartment, what have you. It takes time. So if you feel nervous or anxious or like sad because you don't have friends, give yourself some grace. It takes time. And I guarantee after the year mark, you'll notice like, wow, like I'm starting to make friends. But to also add on to that, make sure you get out there. So go to a gym, go to places where there's sports teams or groups, or go out and do the hobbies that you enjoy, and go to places where you could possibly meet people with like-minded hobbies. Go to coffee shops frequently. I know coffee is expensive. It's kind of a stupid thing to spend money on day in and day out. But when you go to a place and you say hello, and the next day you say hello, and you make small talk with people, they familiarize themselves with you. You go to a restaurant consistently, even if it's something cheap. Get your face out there and people recognize you. After a while, the owner, the person behind the desk, whoever, will start chatting with you because they have seen your face frequently. So they're like, well, this new person keeps coming here. Let me get to know him. So I know this is a lot of information in a video, but if you got any questions or if there was something I missed, definitely feel free to leave a comment below, and I will address any questions you got or make sub-videos pertaining to said question. And yeah, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your time. If you made it this far in the video, thank you. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you get notified anytime video is posted. And please hit the thumbs up too, that helps. So, love you guys, take care, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you in the next video.